You leave St. Mary's Academy, you go to Cranford, and then where you really started to come into notice when anybody who knew basketball on the East Coast was Fairlawn High School. Talk to us about those days at Cranford and at Fairlawn. Fairlawn, I know you did everything but drive the team bus to the games. There you coach baseball, you coach the football, defensive coordinator in football, and the head baseball coach in basketball. So there was nothing else left for you to do but drive the bus.
Well, I was lucky, George, because when I came out of the Army and I put in the year to get my master's degree at Niagara, I was playing in the Eastern League. Then I get my degree. Well, you got to get a job. Bill Martin, who was the athletic director and the head basketball coach at Cranford High School, says, I have an opening. My assistant, Rolly Mazzamino, is taking over the Hillside job. So I go to Cranford. He says, but look, I want you to be the head baseball coach, assistant basketball coach, and I'd like you to be an assistant in football. Mm-hmm. Now we're Group 4, which are the largest schools in Jersey. So I really had to learn football, okay? And little did I know, I went to this clinic in Atlantic City. There were 1,600 coaches there for football. I was writing everything down because who was there? Lombardi, Bear Bryant, the coach of Southern Cal at that time, but they had the great Southern Cal. John McKay, okay? George, that cast of clinicians. I walked out of, I had so many notes I didn't know what to do with them all, okay? But the thing was the Bear Bryant thing. Maybe we can get back to that later. But I did that for 5 years. Bill got me the job at Fairlawn High School. I go up there. They are much bigger than we are. 2,900 kids, 10, 11, and 12. And we're in a real big football league. All right, so I become the defensive head coach for football, then head basketball, head baseball. Now, I love that. Because the last game I coached on Thanksgiving Day in front of 12,000 people, our string of 24 straight games, we lost on a block punt into the end zone. They fell on it and beat us by a point. And I worked with a guy by the name of Frank Devins, who was way ahead of his time. Because now we're talking 1966, 67. I was there 65, 66, 67. With the spread offenses and the passing and all of this wide open football that we're seeing today.
Yes.
He was way ahead of this. And I learned so much from him about shortened practices, less physical contact, and that his technique was incredible. Our lacrosse coach won the lacrosse state championship 6 years in a row. I was affected by him because of how he coached and what he ran and things of that nature. So at Fairlawn, doing the football, basketball, baseball, and then running a swim club in the summertime with I was an assistant swim club guy, then running your leagues in the summertime. You know, your baseball guys had to play at the American Legion. Then the basketball guys had to play in this league. And to this day, my wife will tell you, that was the happiest time. Mm-hmm. We were just scraping along, George, as you know. And I'll never forget it. I was making $18,750. And Warren Mitchell, who's the coach of William and Mary, comes to me and says, because he sees me speaking at the 5-star camp, and my team was there. He offers me the job for $7,000 to come to be the assistant. Now here we are with 3 kids. We're going to get a 4th one in 2 years, but at that time we have 3 kids, and I'm sitting on the Wren Building steps with a close friend of mine and yours, Les Critchman, and we're sitting there, and I'm saying, how can I do this? Go from 18,500 back to 7,000 with 3 kids. I said, how am I going to do this? Little do I know, when we go there, the football coach is Marv Levy. He has Bobby Ross as his quarterback coach, Larry Peccatello as his defensive coordinator, who was with the Redskins when they win 3 championships. Hal Hunter, the offensive line coach, Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line coach, 4 years when they ring the 4 bell. All of these guys are at William & Mary. The Olympic track coach, 10 years from now, is the track coach, Harry Woods. It was unbelievable. It was a great experience going to William & Mary. And once again, I wasn't sure I should do that, because once we leave that high school situation where you affect the lives of the kids, you now, once you start up, you start giving away that type of a relationship. You have relationships at the college level and the pro level. And then naturally, as you go up, you lose security as you're going up. But for me, it was a great time.
Were you able to make it? You'd be dropping from 18,000 to 7,000. Obviously, your wife probably had to go to work, and you guys had to cut back on and make a lot of sacrifice. That was a hell of a sacrifice to go to college coaching.
George, after 1 year, we went to Duke. You didn't get a full share of the camp. Vic Bubas was the head coach. You didn't get a full share until you ran the camp. You got $150 a week for 3 weeks. Same deal, 7 down. My wife she was a BS in nursing, was the nurse at the emergency hospital, at the Duke Hospital. And then we had Brendan Brown. And you're absolutely right. Because what happens is, and you tell coaches this, back then, when we would do clinics, stop saying that you think the assistant coach has it great. Can you go backwards to go forwards, dollar-wise? More important, can your wife, with the family, accept going backwards and forwards? The coach is on a retainer when he goes out to recruit, all right, whether he's driving or flying and has a per diem, etc. Your family is still at home and the children are still going to school, and you're still on making $7,000 and you're trying to stretch your money. That's when you know you must be married to a person that can handle this type of restricted income, the children going to school, you going on the road so much in recruiting, never mind the games, and then on the summer, well, at the summertime, you and I must have done, come on, Joey, the two of us had to do at least a minimum of 15
That was where you made a lot of your extra
clinics.
money.
Come on, that's where we made our money, right?
Extra money driving up and down the highways of New Jersey and Delaware and Pennsylvania and New York. Anywhere anybody would listen to us, we'd go. It didn't make an... But in those days, guys never got into coaching for the money. You got into it because you loved the game and you really felt that you could contribute to the game and that. You know, we haven't talked a lot about him, and I would like to just bring him up and have you amplify some words about him, and that's Al Balbo. I know he not only touched your life as a coach, but so many of the young guys. You know, he was someone that when you were coming along as a coach, someone says, "Hey, you need to get to know Al Balbo. You need to sit down and talk to him. This guy is a genius when it comes to the game of basketball." Tell us a little bit more about him.
Al Balbo came to St. Mary's High School, George, when I became a freshman. Our 8th grade team won the state championship of CYL Catholic schools in the state of New Jersey. When I went to the 9th grade, here this guy came into our school. And little did we know that he was from New York City, Lower East Side, and that at Iowa State, he was a halfback in football. He was a point guard in basketball. And he and Stubby Obermeyer, who pitched in Major League Baseball for years, were the 2 best pitchers in the Big 8 at that time. He comes, signs baseball contract. He goes through the minor leagues. He gets drafted. All right, he's up pitching AA or AAA. He gets drafted. He goes into service, gets malaria. Goes from 195 pounds to the guy that we all know when he came to us at about 160 pounds. Because everybody referred to him as the thin man. But he came as assistant football, head basketball, head baseball guy. But he was a fantastic classroom teacher. He taught seniors problems of American democracy. The guy, you can't be a great coach if you're not really a really outstanding teacher. All of those guys had it, and that's exactly what he had. They commanded respect when they just walked through the door. Mm-hmm. His image was that way, and that's how he coached. We played zone, George. They played zone because he cut me freshman year. I didn't even make the JV team, and for 3 years they played a 1-2-2 zone. My junior year, I was in the front of zone. Next thing I know, he goes away and he comes back with this ball you man defense, which revolutionizes ball you man play, as we know. Because the Bobby Knights, the Rolls you Mazamino, the Tates Locks, and all of these, we're all disciples of ball you man. And because Bobby Knight eventually brings him to be his assistant at West Point, as he's the athletic director at Belleville High School in New Jersey. But once he got that ball you man, it fit in perfectly as he became the head football coach. He was an incredible organizer, disciplined guy. And then he was always great with the basketball, with the ball you man stuff, okay? Then the baseball. So he had it. So when I left to go for my first job, when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame, I said to two people who had the biggest effect in my life, my father, and Al Balbo had the biggest influence on my life as a male, because he was so intense and he wouldn't accept anything else other than excellence. He demanded chemistry. He demanded your heart. And none of us ever passed out. He took us in practices and in games to the point that in football, we're playing teams all over the state because nobody in our local area will play us, you know? And here he's doing this at this little Catholic school. He's doing it in 3 sports. He was the ultimate clinician. And if you have never had an opportunity to see him as a clinician, you missed it. Because he could have been on Broadway. He had that flair. When he walked out in front of 200, 300, 400 kids, 500 coaches, 1,000 coaches, whatever, you were mesmerized by his diction, by his grasp knowledge, and how he could demonstrate without wasting a second. He had that, George, and that we're talking back, you know, in the late 40s into the 50s. Okay, he had that at that time. But he gave me my greatest fight the day that I left, because my dad and he were so close. Because my dad was the custodian. And he and Balbo spent so many hours together. He said, "You have an excellent voice. So when you go to coach, do not use the whistle unless you absolutely have to. Wow. Command their respect with your voice."
Wow.
George, he was right on the money. Because we as kids, we didn't understand that's what he was doing. The only time he ever used the whistle when we were on the sleds, okay? And when you had to use the whistle to move guys, you know, an army of guys around.